What happens, Black poet Langston Hughes asks to a dream deferred? I will not be finding out. People all over the country were starving, yet here were several photographs of farmers somewhere in America slaughtering hogs and pouring milk onto the ground in order to force prices up. In Portugal, we are dealing with the worst housing crisis in the whole of Europe, and there are still entire apartment buildings being shut up and taken out of the market to drive prices up. That quote I just read you is from an essay called Dark Days by James Baldwin. I've been reading it in the past few days, and it's been just this extraordinary thing because I haven't had this feeling of devouring a book for months and months. I haven't, because I haven't been able to read, and I've been talking so much about my reading slump on this channel that I realize how long it has been since I feel like I connect so deeply with a book with words on a page. It's been so long. As you can see, I changed rooms, so I had to rearrange my bookshelves. I saw this book. The title was Dark Days. Perfect. I started reading it right then and there. I stopped reorganizing my books. I stopped cleaning dust. I stopped what I was doing. I just sat down on the floor next to the, I forget the name in English, the thing that gives the heat to the house, and I just started reading, and I shit you not, my soul was calmed and reassured for the first time in so long. I feel like we've been dealing with a world that has gone completely mad for so long at this point, and we know that we are going to be dealing with a world that is going to go even madder for even longer, that we don't really have a moment of like a pause, of reprieve, where we can just take a fucking breath and relax our shoulders and not feel terrified of the fucking future. Well, we had a little bit of that with heated rivalry and when Mamdani was elected and some things like that happening around the world. But for me, this was a good one. And I'm not going to read you every little thing that I highlighted because we will be here for hours, but I'm going to read you a few highlights that just gave me some tranquility, not because they are good, because he's talking about a lot of shit. This is from before the civil rights movement, I'm pretty sure. So he's talking about a lot of horrible shit, but in a way, it gave me some reassurance because if they were able to, in some ways, overcome it in the past, we will be able to overcome it right now. And it just fucking sucks that this new cycle of bullshit is happening during my fucking best years. I'm about to turn 30. I don't want to spend my 30s and 40s during a fucking world war. And it looks like that's gonna happen. It's not. I'm being too negative. I need to be positive. I need to think about things in a positive lens. Otherwise, I'm gonna go in. I was just about to say insane, and then I said crazy, and then I didn't say anything. Maybe I'm not about to go insane. Maybe I already am. On page 7, this beautiful person says, the Second World War ended the Depression by throwing America into a war economy. We are in the war economy. Fuck me, I can't say these words. We are in the war economy still, and we are only slightly embarrassed by the difficulty of officially declaring a third world war. But where there's will, I hate to suggest, there's often a way. I would have loved to go to dinner with this man. I just know. Seeing the news these days and reading, this was like in, let me see, I think it was the 60s? The 80s. Okay, this was in October of 1980. And he was already saying that. I mean, it's true. What's like one of the biggest, if not the biggest industries in the US, you know? It's like the United States are like Captain America, cannot live without a war.
Selfish.
I was seeing someone commenting this. I don't know if I read it or if I heard it, but someone saying that he has to start he has to start a war before the midterms, because then if he starts a war, he can like cancel the elections and say that it's like the most urgent thing is to win this war. So we have to keep me as president forever. Like, I don't know how no one is talking about this, or I haven't really seen anyone talking. I mean, I read a lot of my news from like The Guardian and stuff like that. So I need to like look for little like niche things, but I don't know what people expect is gonna happen, but there is no way in hell he's gonna like give up his power, give up his seat as president. There's no way in hell that's gonna happen. And we're all gonna suffer. Like, people tell me that, because I'm in Portugal, I'm in the north of Portugal, people tell me that like we are safe here because geographically it's like a safe place. We are not a threat. Like, we don't have a powerful military. Our leaders are practically licking his ass and not like standing up to him. So people tell me I'm safe, but I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. We are in somewhat strategic, like, geographical position. Here's another great one. The ghetto man, woman, or child who may already wonder why curbing inflation means starving him out of existence or into the army may also wonder why violence is right for Carter or for any other white man, but wrong for the black man. And this, like, starving him out of existence or into the army, like, I heard this idea the other day and it's fucked me up. The idea that the male loneliness epidemic, the red pill dudes, the manosphere dudes, that like the incel dudes, these guys who either feel abandoned by women or hate women or think that feminism has gone too far. If you're going to recruit anyone to the military, if you're going to recruit anyone to a immigration and whatever force, isn't it those losers who think that the world is against them and every woman in the world hates them, or who hate every woman in the world and want to subjugate them? Like, who better for this kind of force? Like, who better to blindly follow you into combat than someone who thinks they have nothing else left? That this world is not made for them or doesn't want them or whatever. Isn't it just fucked up? Like, I know a few of those guys here in Portugal. And if I have to think of anyone who would join a militia or something like that, it's them. These were some highlights from the first essay. The second essay is the price of the ticket. And this one just, I loved it. This idea that people were just people, but eventually they were divided into races, and then to buy the white ticket is to pay certain dues, and to buy the black ticket is to pay certain dues. He explores this whole idea of how, like, black people in America, once everything ended, slavery ended, they bought the black ticket and were considered black against the white. But then, for example, the Irish, who were also tormented at the hands of the English, then were able to, buy a white ticket and came to America and became white and not the oppressed race anymore. So many great ideas discussed. Like, I felt so comforted by this, by his intelligence, his brain. This is so tragic. I keep reading authors that are dead and I keep like falling completely in love with their brain and with the way they think, and then I can't talk to them. It kills me every time. Another heartbreaking one that first shocked me when I read it, and then I was like, oh, I get it. And it goes like this. And partially because part of the price of the black ticket is involved fatally with the dream of becoming white. I read this and I was like, and then it just hit me how many times I've been in fuck-ass situations and thought this would be so much easier if I were a man. This wouldn't be a problem if I were a man. Like, why couldn't I have been born a man? And then none of this shit would have happened to me. And I remembered all these times that I've had this discussion with myself, because I have thought to myself, do I really want to be a man? And the answer has always been, no, I'm a woman. I feel like a woman. I feel confident in my body as a woman. I don't want to be a man. But then society, like in society, in certain things that have happened, I mean, happens to all of us, to every woman. You sometimes just wonder how much easier it would be if you were a man. You sometimes just fucking think, why couldn't I have been born a guy? And of course, if I had been born a guy, then I will still be a woman and it would be even fucking harder. But yeah, I read that and then I was like, I get it. Next one. Brutal. A mob cannot afford to doubt that the Jews killed Christ, or that the Black people want to rape their sisters, or that anyone who fails to make it in the land of the free and the home of the brave deserves to be wretched. But these ideas do not come from the mob. They come from the state, which creates and manipulates the mob. The idea of Black persons as property, for example, does not come from the mob. It is not a spontaneous idea. It does not come from the people who knew better, who thought nothing of intermarriage until they were penalized for it. This idea comes from the architects of the American state. These architects decided that the concept of property was more important, more real than the possibilities of the human being. And aren't we seeing this with the fucking immigrants? I see it in my country all the time. They talk about immigrants as if they are the spawns of the devil and they are coming to both take our benefits and take our jobs because they can do everything. And it's not a discourse that was born of the people. It just wasn't. It was a discourse that was fed to us over years and years and years because this person or this group of people who are having this discourse and having this much hate towards immigrants because that's how they get fucking elected. They were so extravagant, so loud, so popular, so entertaining that everyone gave them a platform. Everyone gave them a place to speak. And when they did that, people started listening to them. People started listening to those who speak louder and who speak more often than not. And now the mob believes. The fucking mob believes. Here it is, the one about the Irish. The Irish Middle Passage, for but one example, was as foul as my own, as dishonorable on the part of those responsible for it. But the Irish became white when they got here and began rising in the world, whereas I became Black and began sinking. And we also see this right now with immigrants, because both here in Portugal, in Italy, in other countries in Europe, when people talk against immigration, they don't really mean immigration. They mean immigration from poorer countries, because Portugal and Italy even have specific visas, like gold visas or equivalent probably in Italy, that allow entry to really rich people, that allow them to get the nationality without even spending like the majority of the year here, without paying them any taxes. As long as they buy property and like give the state and the rich people a lot of money, then they can have nationality. And then poor people or people who come from poor countries have to be here working every year now for 7 years, and they have to contribute their taxes like everyone else monthly. And they're seen as like this dirty intruder into the country, and they are supporting the country. And the rich immigrants are seen as welcome and like valued immigrants, and they're all immigrants. The only difference is that some are poor and some are rich, and the rich ones are allowed in and get the white ticket, and the poor ones are kind of tolerated in and get the black ticket. And I was reading this and I was like understanding how everything is exactly like the strategy is exactly the same. And I was like going insane. I've been saying for so long that people like in my country need to be reading international news, need to be paying attention to international news, because if they were, they would realize that the alt-right political party that is currently the second biggest political party in the country copied their entire campaign from the Republican Party in the US. And they wouldn't be so wondered by the possibility of a new party changing things, because they would realize that it's not new, it's not original, it's just a carbon copy of the party that is destroying the biggest country in the world. I just wish people didn't have this in front of their eyes and would actually open their eyes to the freaking world. The irony of the fact that if people are more open to diversity, more knowledgeable about different parts of the world, then they have a better understanding of what is happening in their own country, and they don't. Moving on to the third essay, The White Man's Guilt. This is another amazing one. Listen to this. What they see is an appalling, oppressive, and bloody history known all over the world. What they see is a disastrous, continuing present condition which menaces them and for which they bear an inescapable responsibility. But since, in the main, they seem to lack the energy to change this condition, they would rather not be reminded of it. I cannot tell you how many times I've had this conversation. I think I've included it in one of my reviews of Chief of War in my movies and TV channel. People in Europe, especially white people in Europe, are terrified of this idea that one day they will be more than us. And by they mean brown and black people, and by us, they mean white people. Terrified out of their minds, because what they are expecting is revenge. They are expecting that the people who are the descendants of the oppressed will want revenge on the people who are the descendants of the oppressor. And all of this shit has a root in that idea that they know it was wrong to such an extent, a profound extent, that it's still not gone. They know it's wrong. They know what happened. We know our history. We are taught our history, not as well as we should have, but we are taught our history. And I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've had conversations with people and I've talked about all of the consequences from our colonialist past, from the slave trade, from the exploitation of other territories. And there are a lot of people in Portugal, I think the majority, that acknowledge this was awful and it's still not over. But there are people a lot of people who have this position that is like, oh, that's in the past. What are we going to do about it now? We weren't there. We didn't do it. We didn't do anything. It's not our responsibility. And it's like, no, you weren't there, but you are still reaping the benefits from it. The countries who were oppressed and who were colonized are still dealing with the fucking consequences of it. It wasn't that long ago. What I said in my video about Chief of War, the review, was that I don't think people have an accurate, long-term perspective of what has to happen. To my point of view, we need reparations. We need to be able to bring all of those nations to an equilibrium standpoint with everyone else. We owe the nations in African continent, in South America, and in a lot of Asian countries, we owe them a lot of reparations. We owe them a lot. And I don't think there is no way that in the future, whenever the hell we decide to acknowledge how fucked up things still are, there's no way that in the future we won't be really hardcore about reparations. I think it's going to take centuries. This oppression, this colonialist conquest of the European countries lasted centuries. How could people possibly think that merely leaving them alone would ever be enough to repair relations? How could it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. I think it will take a long time. For humanity to finally feel healed from all this bullshit. And I mean, I won't be here, but I believe we can do it. And the thing that I find really curious about this horrendous fear that not everyone, but a lot of people in Europe have, that if black and brown people are more than us in the continent, they will want revenge. It's like, do you have two brain cells? And you can tell which people think this way, because you can tell they didn't have any major negative experience in their life. Because I've had major negative experiences, and I've had people who have hurt me beyond the limits of the law, to be honest. And I've talked with other people about this, and what everyone who's been really hurt, traumatized, oppressed, whatever, what they want is just to be left the fuck alone and to have a normal life and to be able to live their lives peacefully. And when people tell me, oh, if there's more than them than there are of us, they will want revenge, they will do the same to us. And it's like, why the fuck would they come here? Why the fuck would they risk their fucking lives coming to a place where they are treated like trash if what they wanted was revenge? Couldn't it possibly be that they just want to have a fucking decent life? That they don't want to have to be afraid or poor? Couldn't it be that? Couldn't we possibly relate to that idea? Like, we expect such shit from each other that we can't fathom the idea that we're not all terrible human beings. And I hate it. We act so much on our fear that we completely forget that on the other side is not a monster or a creature or this like rage-filled person, but it's a fucking human being, you know, literally a person with fears, with dreams, with all that cringy, cheesy ass shit. I got a lot out of this book. Anyway, this one gave me so much hope. It goes like this. My point of view certainly is formed by my history, and it is probable that only a creature despised by history finds history a questionable matter. On the other hand, people who imagine that history flatters them, as it does indeed since they wrote it, are impaled on their history like a butterfly on a pin and become incapable of seeing or changing themselves or the world. Gave me so much hope. So much hope. Because what I want is for those people who are, who desire the glory of the past, which... That's the thing in Portugal. That's the thing. People who want to go back to the time of the discoveries and the time where we sailed the world, the times of glory for Portugal. I want these people who are stuck in this period in history, in the past glory of the country. I want them to be impaled like a butterfly on a pin and to leave the rest of us alone. I want them to be impaled by history. Because I want to change it. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in the past. I want to be in the future, in a lunar colony, writing about aliens. Can I please? It's so freaking tragic. Like when you as a person, like many people know this, when you know the capacity of like human beings, when you know how far we can reach and we're still stuck here in this bullshit, fighting ridiculous things, like the possibility, like the fact that people are actually thinking that there is a possibility of another world war, that people are like have started at this point thinking about it in a serious way. Like again, are we this primitive thinking again? Like we could be on a moon, we could be shaking hands with an alien, meeting other people, and here we are. We could be figuring out the mysteries of the universe, finding out where the hell we came from, where the hell we are going, and here we are, putting guns on the hands of 18-year-olds and sending them to war. Here it is, the quote that... I might cut all of my ranting out of this video. I don't know. But he says this. He's talking about how white people talk about the past. Do not blame me. I was not there. I did not do it. My history has nothing to do with Europe or the slave trade. Anyway, it was your chiefs who sold you to me. I was not present on the Middle Passage. I was not responsible for the textile mills of Manchester or the cotton fields of Mississippi. Besides, consider how the English, too, suffered in those mills and in those awful cities. I also despise the governors of southern states and the sheriffs of southern counties. And I also want your child to have a decent education and rise as high as his capabilities will permit. I have nothing against you, nothing. What have you got against me? What do you want? But on the same day, in another gathering, this is James Baldwin talking, in another gathering and in the most private chamber of his heart, always the white American remains proud of that history for which he does not wish to pay and for which materially he has profited so much. And this is what I was saying. we've barely come out of it. Like, a lot of the territories that Portugal used to hold as colonies only got their freedom. I think most of them got their freedom when the dictatorship ended like 50 years ago in 74. So this has not ended that long ago at all. I don't think there's no way we get through the next few centuries without hardcore big time reparations for the centuries of exploitation that was done to these countries. And he says it here as well, because white people carry in them a carefully muffled fear that black people long to do to others what has been done to them. And then this is ending pretty much close to the end, and he says, white men, you have already arrived at this unspeakable blasphemy in order to make money. You cannot endure the things you acquire. The only reason you continually acquire them, like junkies on $100 a day habits, and your money exists mainly on paper. God help you on that day when the population demands to know what is behind that paper. I was reading this thinking, oh my God, I hope it's close. I hope it's close. But even beyond this, it is terrifying to consider the precise nature of the things you have bought with the flesh you have sold, of what you continue to buy with the flesh you continue to sell. To what precisely are you headed? Isn't that the question? Where does it end? With all these fucking billionaires, where does it end? Where is the limit? And shout out to Katie from Mean Girls. Because guess what? There is no limit. There is no limit. Unless it is imposed on them. They're never gonna stop. Like, can you see Elon Musk stopping after 1 trillion? I cannot. 1 trillion. Let me tell you what I wrote in my journal after I read this and realized that I don't have a choice but to live through this shit. This is what I wrote. I read Dark Days by James Baldwin, and it couldn't have come at a better time. What is happening is not new, it's just another cycle. I have no choice but to live through it, so in doubt, I will dance. And this idea I got from this book that I read, and I've reviewed it here before. It's called RIFQA. I forget his name. It's written by a Palestinian author who comes from an historic family. I think his family has been known for protesting a lot or being very, very rebellious. And he lives in the US right now. And one of the ideas from his book is that and one of the ideas that I remember from his book is this complete and total oppression where you can't publish articles against the regime, you can't say anything, you can't be a 5-year-old child throwing a stick because you'll be considered like the devil and an enemy to the state and a danger, whatever. And like he had this idea of when there's no way for which using any kind of rebellion or resistance or violence, when there's no way to fight a regime that oppresses you to such an extent that you simply cannot, or your life will be in danger, or you will lose your life. The only thing you can do to continue this rebellion and to oppose your oppressor is to dance in their faces, is to still enjoy little things, is to look at the flowers and still feel joy and happiness despite an entire world around you trying to get you to suffer and all day, every day. That in the face of all that, the least you can do is just feel a little bit of joy. So yeah, I remember that. And after reading Dark Days, I thought, yeah, we're going to go through it and we can't lose our values and we can't lose our joy. So there you go. This is my little 40 minutes recording. I will cut it down to maybe half an hour. This is my little reminder that there are warm hugs in words. And honestly, if you are a writer and you are thinking of quitting or you think it's too hard or whatever, please don't quit. the reader who needs your words the most probably hasn't even been born yet. I'm very thankful that he didn't quit. And I mean, he wrote this decades ago and it's giving me comfort right now. So please don't quit.